Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am iwishiknew as always, and today we're going to be working on my secret project. So let's go get started on it. An update on the farm I'm building up there. I pretty much scrapped it. It's not going to be a farm right now. I'm just going to put my wolves up there, just so I can get them out of my house and stop hearing them bark. And because I attempted to build a farm and pretty much got completely done with it and realized, oh crap, I can't do that. I have to have a space below the pistons and above the half slabs. An actual block, not just a half slab. Or else I can't power the pistons. So I'd already set it up, already had it all good to go, and they're like, well, that's a complete waste of my time. So I got a little demotivated there, didn't actually finish it off. Today, gonna be one of my little, just go on about stuff that interests me today. And we're gonna talk about science again, because I love science. Um, I am a huge computer geek. Oh, a huge geek, period, actually. I'm the type of guy who walks around and says, live long and prosper. I read Star Trek books, I play video games. I watch Highlander, I watch Firefly, I watch all those things. And when I heard of a website called buildtheenterprise.org, and I'll definitely put a link to that in my video description, I was a little skeptical. I'm like, oh, wow, build the enterprise, okay, we can't actually do it. Well, after reading his page, I was like, wait a second. Give me 1 second. Sorry, coming down with a bit of a cold. Didn't want to hear y'all. Didn't think y'all wanted to hear me cough. As I said, no, we're not going to have transporters. We're not going to have, photon torpedoes. We're not going to have warp speed, holodecks, yada yada yada. But it's a ship that will be able to get us to Mars in 90 days with a crew of 1,000. It'll be able to stay around Mars for I think like half a year, and pretty much make a round trip to Mars with 1,000 people in under a year. And I was like, wow, that's incredible. I mean, that's how much more scientific advancements could we get if we can go to Mars in a reusable spaceship? You know, not one they have to keep rebuilding. That we can actually put people on Mars instead of just robots. You know, it's the amount of advancement would be amazing. And not only that, I mean, if you look at the scientific advancements that we've made just from Star Trek, and whether you believe everything that whether you believe everything they said about Star Trek and how it came about, or not how it came about, how it affected technology or not, I mean, at the very least, you have people who are like, wow, look at Scotty, the engineer of the original Enterprise. I want to be like him. I want to be an engineer, and so they're engineers now. In fact, the guy who's running the website, buildtheenterprise.org, he's a BTE Dan. He was like, yeah, I got into being an engineer because of Star Trek, of the Enterprise. So you think about that, you're like, okay, well, how many more people in today's generation would do something like that? How many people would say, okay, I'm gonna be an engineer because build the Enterprise. That's amazing. Or I'm gonna be a computer scientist. I'm gonna be a theoretical engineer or something like that. The advancements through there are just incredible. But the original Star Trek is credited, and whether you believe it or not, like I said, it doesn't really matter. It's credited with the helping invent the cell phone, because one of the guys who worked on a cell phone looked at the communicator that they use and go, hey, why can't we do that? Well, there's no reason why we can't do that. And boom, he made the cell phone. He invented the cell phone. The guy who laser surgery. Rumor has it that he saw Dr. McCoy operating without cutting somebody open. He's like, wow, why can't we do that? And granted, we still can't operate all the way without cutting somebody open, but we do have laser surgery. We have we can fix people's eyes with just lasers. We can do some incredible stuff. It's like, wow, so why not? I mean, why shouldn't we invest in this money? And it's $1 trillion, so it's not something to be taken lightly. Don't get me wrong, but the guy had it all planned out, and like I said, everything's on Build the Enterprise website. They all planned out. $1 trillion in a year in 20 years. So that's 50 billion a year. You're like, wow, that's a lot of money. Well, we could, if we raise taxes by something like 1.9% or something, without cutting any type of, without doing any type of budget cuts, we could fund it. And which is a pretty good thing. But then you're like, well, I don't want to raise taxes. You look at, it's not 1.9% from, you're not going from, let's say you pay 20% tax to 21.9% tax. No, I need to pay attention to my shovels. No, you're going from 20% tax to like 20.54% tax because it's 1.9% of that 20% raise. So it's not even that much, and it's over 20 years. And that's only if we get the government to build it. What if we do, multiple countries? What if we say, hey, China, Russia, Japan, Europe, Germany, whoever, well, maybe not Europe right now because they're going through the economic crisis, but in 20 years they might not be, But if you come to them, hey, you want to pitch in some labor, pitch in some money, help us build this, make it a United Nations instead of just a spaceship of America, a spaceship of Germany, a spaceship of, whoever, then bam, not only do we now not even have to pay 50 billion a year. If we get 5 countries, that's 10 billion. That's, that's pennies literally for every person. But now we also are coming together as a planet, and saying, look, scientific advancement is more important than our petty squabbles, more important than who we've made mad, or what's happened here, what's happened there. This? Fortune? Yeah. The reason why there it goes. I'm not saying that it's going to be perfect, and there's a lot of stuff that would have to be worked out, but using today's technology, it's possible. And he's not made anything brand new. He's not increased anything. I mean, he's not invented anything to make this project work. It's got something like 0.002 G's a second per second, like constant acceleration, and he's using that by using 3 nuclear reactors. One that's I think one that's a megawatts and a half, and then like 2 that are half a megawatt, and I'm sorry, the impulse engines, they're the engines, they're not impulse, obviously, are the megawatt and a half, and then 2 half-watt ion engines. And you're like, oh, we don't have those yet. No, you're true. We don't have, megawatt and a half ion engines yet. But we do have is we have ion engines. And even without increasing, within the next 20 years, even without improving upon those, we can still use the ones that we have right now, and we can fill the needs. We can make the 3 impulse engines that we would need. And that's impressive. It's like, okay, wow, we can improve, and we should. I'm not saying that we can like, oh, well, we're good. But all this extra stuff would just be, icing on the cake. It's going to have, artificial gravity, using I forgot the official name. With this spinning wheel, it's going to have like Space Station has, artificial gravity by making a wheel spin around and around. So that way, because there are some issues with prolonged exposure to, no gravity. And so he's got that worked out. And, he's not perfect on everything. He's an engineer. He's not a full 500% scientist type thing. But a lot of the stuff he has is based on today's technology. And he's more than willing. He said, look, if you can prove me wrong, I'm saying, okay, I'm more than willing to admit that I was wrong. So if you're a scientist of some form, you can always go into we'll look at it and say, hey, maybe this won't work, but try this, and this should. And who knows, maybe with enough participation, enough people are interested in going to the stars and actually exploring, we can get this off the ground, and one giant leap for mankind. So something that has been bothering me about it though is when I'm talking to people, I'm like, yeah, this guy thinks he can build Starship Enterprise. And everyone's like, oh, Starship Enterprise. Wow. Yeah, he's a geek. Go back to Geek Town. Let the real men do the stuff. Which is pretty much the reaction he got when he went to NASA. And granted, NASA's now like, oh, wait a second, that actually might work out. Well, not NASA, but he went to the NASA forums. I'm not trying to say NASA said anything. They didn't. But he went to the NASA forums and he started asking questions because he wanted feedback. He wanted to make sure that his ideas are sound before he started putting them out to everybody. And people on the NASA forums were like, oh, they were pretty much told him, look, don't bring your science, your little kiddie science into this. Grow up and admit the real world, you're not going to make it. And he's pretty much shown him up. He's like, well, look, I can do it. And as much as you don't want it to, we could have this done. And now the people who are saying that, it's like, oh, wait a second, maybe we should have actually looked at this. Maybe we should have said, hey, yeah, Star Trek, but let's look at the science behind it. Let's not look at the fact that it's Star Trek, because that's misleading. That's what I'm looking for. Because people don't even pay attention when you say it's Star Trek, and that makes me mad. All the scientific advancements that we have, and nobody can say, well, look, maybe, yeah, it didn't come from the right place. Maybe it's not, ooh, whoop-de-doo-dah, amazing science. But it's pretty good science, so let's take a look at it. What am I looking for? Missed building, I think? Yep, right there, stone bricks. And smooth stone. Do I have any? Give me a second. I'll find it somewhere. Oh, there it is. Yeah, alright. Sorry about that. That said multiple times, actually, doing this while talking is definitely an interesting experience. So, put Spacestone back and put Skullstone back. And he's got multiple different things, and he admits, multiple times that I'm not the expert here, and he needs experts to come in and take a look at it. He needs people to say, hey, yeah, that worked out, but if you do this, it'll be better. If you do that, it'll be better. And he's not trying to take credit for it. He's not saying, look, everything that happened is because of me. He's admitted that he needs help. In fact, his recent blog post pretty much stated that, hey, look, we need somebody to come in and do graphical design and design it, and then work with the engineers who are out there and say, look, this is what we're planning on having. How does it look? Do you think it could actually work out, or do you think it's crap and we shouldn't do it? And who knows? They've got some people, as most people know, geeks and nerds, if you're a nerd and not a geek, or we go after something that we want. So are we going to get this? Well, if people keep thinking, oh, it's a pipe dream, we're never going to have it. No, we'll never have it. Is it a pipe dream? Yes, it's a pipe dream. Does that mean that we can't have it? No. What do you think the reaction was when they said, hey, less than 100 years ago, we were the first time we took flight. And by the way, now, we want to have somebody land on the moon. You think everybody's like, oh, dude, that's totally easy. We can do it. Yeah, no problem. No, they're like, wow, you are obviously a moron if you think we can do that. Did he do it? Yes. So why can't we take the same type of initiative here? It's because nobody's pushing us. Do we need another Cold War to be like, hey, look, guys, maybe we need to go to the Mars? I just said go to the Mars. Maybe we need to go to Mars. Maybe we need to see what Mars is like. We're kind of messing this planet up. Let's go see another planet, not to mess it up, but just take over and be like, hey, look, we're going to do this planet right. We're going to not colonize it, but whatever you do when you take a planet and you make it to have oxygen, terraform, that's what word I'm thinking of. Maybe that's what we need to do. And who knows what would happen. I forgot what train of thought I was going with there. You can probably take a guess about what I'm doing right now. If I had doors, it'd be even easier. But I'm going to go ahead and say it, and I'll get back to build the Enterprise once I start to catch up. Basically, with 1.3 coming out, we'll be able to trade with villagers. And they'll trade us everything from, chainmail armor, which is actually being re-implemented in the game. They'll trade us, wool, wooden tools, iron tools, diamond armor, stuff like that. Really, pretty much everything in the game that you can get, except for mossy cobblestone. I don't think's in there, but there are a few other things. So what I'm doing is I'm making a little village. It's gonna be right here. Just gonna have a couple of houses around here, and I'll improve upon it. That's why I said it's gonna be pretty big. So I'm just gonna go back that way, and I'm gonna build up a wall of probably glass, and then just have it come over with glass too, like a roof of glass. And I'll have my little villagers in here that I can trade with. Ow. And hopefully everything will go well. I'm entirely sure. I think I'm going to decorate the center of it and just have everything on the side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, sorry about that. I kind of got lost. And you can, what you trade with them is a new aura called Emerald, I believe, and it only spawns in mountainous biomes above sea level, from what I've read. So that means, if you have a current, like my world, I'm gonna have to go to a place that I've not gone to before to have new sections generate, or you can trade some stuff. Like a farmer will eventually, and you start off with one item, and they'll work their way up to 2 or 3, depending on how long they've been alive. So a farmer will eventually trade you anywhere from I think like 48 to 63 rotten flesh for 1 emerald. And it's a lot of emeralds, but I mean it's a lot of rotten flesh. But also, dang it. But also, rotten flesh is pretty easy to get. You can farm it in the nether. You can farm it here. You can pretty much do however you want. I've got stacks of it. I've thrown away lots more. Now, looking back, not a good idea. Oh well. Ta-da. So, back to build the Enterprise. I am like I said, I'm a huge fan of Star Trek. And, the actual Star Trek. I'm not just little piece of crap, literally, pretty much, that came out recently, in 2009. Yeah, that doesn't exist. Enterprise, as crappy as that one was the last Star Trek to come about. Star Trek series. I like Nemesis just because they actually showed the evolution of, everything really. And some people are like, oh, well, the Romulans are going to do that. And it kind of showed the Romulans are evolving. I mean, they did help us in the Dominion War. So, probably lots of people who aren't Star Trek fans there, who don't really like sci-fi. And this isn't, the build of the Enterprise isn't only for people who like sci-fi, or only people who like Star Trek. It's for everybody. It's an advancement of humanity. Did I even? Awesome. That matches out perfectly. No, it doesn't. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Okay. It's for people who want to advance scientifically. We need to get off planet Earth. It's gonna eventually, we're eventually gonna run out of space. Whether that's 50 years from now, 100 years from now, 4 trillion years from now, however long, we're eventually gonna run out of space down here, or on Earth, not down here. I'm not on space or anything. And even if we don't, we're gonna run out of resources. And if y'all watched all of mine, all the videos I put out, then you should remember the video planetary mining, planetary resources, that's what it was, which is about mining asteroids. And if we could do something like this enterprise, that will have, literally pretty much shuttle that will go in and out and be able to ferry people, then bam, it's even better. We can do a whole bunch more with that. We don't have to worry about sending up these spaceships and then gathering the minerals and then sending them back and then doing all these other issues. We can send up space shuttles to the asteroids, follow the asteroid around if need be, and then wham bam, when it gets done, thank you ma'am for your minerals, and we've got stuff coming out the wazoo. So it's, if there's somebody like, oh, okay, what's pay? How are we going to pay for it all? Like I said, we could do the taxes. Let's say the government's like, there's no way we're doing this. It's a pipe dream, and you're obviously retarded to even attempt it. Well, why don't we all get together? And yeah, it's $1 trillion. It's a lot of money to raise. It's over 20 years, so that's literally $50 billion a year, which is still a pretty good amount. And some of it, if we do have to raise it ourselves, it's not going to be in 20 years. It's going to be 35, 40 years. Who knows how long. But it could still be attained. We could make money by saying, look, we have this Star Trek Enterprise. Who wants to come see it? Who wants to take a tour up here? Who wants to invest money in making this, and then we can go and mine these asteroids like I was talking about before. And people are like, oh, well, maybe I will. Maybe Bill Gates wants to drop, a few million in. Maybe Hugh Hefner wants to drop a few million. Who knows? It could happen. And if we're just like, well, it's a pipe dream, it's not going to happen. It never is. And so, I guess this video is kind of like me giving off, talking to people about Build the Enterprise. It's also me letting off some a rant about most of the arguments I've heard lately against it. And most of them are pretty much saying, well, it's a pipe dream. It's not going to happen, so don't get your hopes up. And yeah, it's a pipe dream, but I'd really like it could happen. And I know that if it does, I'm currently in the military. I'm pretty sure I've said that before. I'll give up my career in the military, and I will go. It's my entire goal. My life goal will change to be the chief engineer when it launches in 20 years. I'll be. Well, he wants to launch it in 2014. Or start when you're working on it in 20. Dang it. In 2014. So it's still going to be a little bit. It'll be ready by 2024, and I won't even be that old. I'll be like 45. I could be chief engineer at 45. How many other people would change what they're doing, would go to be engineers, scientists, whatever, to work on this? I think a lot. And I think that's where I'm going to leave you today. Yeah, I kind of got sidetracked there. But it's pretty much what I want to do. I want to talk about scientific endeavorment. Still waiting on my laptop. Oh, I'm sorry. Still waiting on my desktop. There's been some issues with getting it here because it's a rather expensive piece of equipment. I dropped a lot into it. And having it shipped here and insuring it was a pretty penny. So we had to wait till all the funds arrive and all that. And once it does, then I'm going into a Kerbal Space program, which I saw from Crud J Mac, and they've apparently done a lot of different upgrades to the system that I haven't been able to play yet. And something like that, and scientific, I'd really like to try it out. Like I said, whether it's a pipe dream or not, whether you believe that we could actually go to Mars in 90 days, whether you believe that 2012 the world's going to end, then at least either way, go look at the website. Don't dismiss it just on one thing. If nothing else, you'll hit the website up. It'll go up on Google, and somebody who's actually somebody else might, find it, and they might actually want to. So I thank you for putting it up with me. This has been I Wish I Knew, talking about Star Trek Enterprise and a real one we can build. And accidentally, I don't think I actually said it. The Enterprise he's thinking of building is the Enterprise from Captain James T. Cook, NCC 1701. As Gotti said, no bloody A, B, C, or D. A, B, C, or D. Yeah. So, just wanted to cover that out. Thank you for listening to me and putting up with me, and I'll see you again soon.